Take it there, who gon' take it there, who gon' take it there, who gon' take it there? Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air, you know what's in the air, you know what's in the air, you know what's in the air. It's possibility, it's possibility, it's possibility, it's possibility.
So I watched the clip where Ana Kasparian says that she was wrong, admits that she was wrong about Project 2025 specifically, referencing that in the past she said that Donald Trump wouldn't do Project 2025 because his base hates it and he does listen to his base, and that Project 2025 is more some like conservative wonk shit, you know, people who are really in the weeds of conservative policy and think tanks, and that that's not the coalition that Trump had built in 2024. That was her perspective on it. And now she's saying that clearly they are implementing Project 2025. Obviously, this guy, Russell Vought, and numerous people that have already been appointed in his cabinet or are just around in his orbit are Project 2025 people. So clearly they are the ones who are the most bought in when it comes to running his administration and what he's going to do policy-wise. And for anybody who, you know, views Trump clearly with clear eyes would recognize that that was always the case. There was never a time where Donald Trump would go in any other direction policy-wise, because those are ultimately the people that run his politics. He doesn't know anything about politics. He doesn't care about politics. He does have some capacity to do unexpected things politically and say unexpected things politically. And he has done that. And he has gone against the old conservative guard of the Republicans a few times on a few issues like Social Security. Most of the time, it's just shit he's saying. And Project 2025 was a perfect example of that. He threw them under the bus. He said it's radical. This is the radical right, and they have nothing to do with this. And Project 25, I don't know what that is. And, you know, all of that turned out to be lies, because he knew that ultimately those people were going to be the ones that he puts in charge. For whatever reason, I mean, you could even argue that he didn't have to do that, because he is in a position where, even by being affiliated with Elon and other people like that, he has so much power outside of the conservative establishment, so to speak, that he wouldn't need to go to those people. And yet somehow he still does. And the reason for that is because they're one and the same. There never really was a difference. And Donald Trump's ability to say things, and in much rarer cases do things that go against the Republican Party as a whole, is more just his capacity to say the right thing at the right time as a salesman than it is his actual political savvy of knowing how to follow through on certain things that might not be expected from the Republicans. And so he's going to do right down the line everything that's in their agenda that he can get away with. They're already taking action on many of those points of Project 2025, clearing the way for it. That is and was always the plan when it comes to what Trump was going to do with this administration. And what you don't hear from Ana in this retraction is a real analysis of how she came to this incorrect conclusion. The way she puts it is that she thought Trump would be more beholden to his base. And again, in her estimation, his base is against Project 2025. And that's true. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump that don't know what Project 2025 is, don't really care, don't believe it when they see it, whatever. But ultimately, that's not what matters. That's never been what matters. And for Ana to land on that as the conclusion of what Donald Trump is or isn't going to allow to shape the actual policy, the things he does while he's in power, is just like ignoring the history that he has in politics. And I think it's also a product of consuming more right-wing media on Ana's part, because if you do consume right-wing media, you have a steady diet of people who are normalizing Trump and telling you that Trump accomplished this, this, and this. And I think on the right, when it comes to media, there's much more of a meshing of the far right and the supposedly middle ground conservatives, because at the end of the day, while there might be disagreements ideologically amongst them, they all are moving pretty much in lockstep, and as of this moment, don't get in each other's way very much. And when it comes to the media environment, they all help each other, and they all normalize Trump. And that, I think, is the kind of rabbit hole that you would have to fall down in order to buy into this idea that Trump is going to kind of see the right side of things, rather than recognizing that Trump is a product and a tool of a Republican machine that has been grinding away for a long time. And the only reason that Trump is a little bit more of a wild card than other Republican presidents have been is because that was the most useful tool to them at a certain time. And so one way or the other, the conservative political machine puts itself behind Trump. And really the way for the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 to do that was to be as radical as possible and to cater to not just the racist far right, but the Christian nationalist far right, which also has a lot of sway with Trump, and to use that leverage to force Trump to adopt the most radical agenda possible. Because by appealing to the radical parts of the base, that's how you're going to essentially create the mechanism through which Trump is forced to do something. So it was just a total miscalculation on Anna's part that the people who might disagree with Project 2025, that may have voted for Trump, that they are going to be the ones who control the dynamic of his presidency and his politics at all. And what Anna chose to focus on was Democrats, basically. And in the moments where she was talking about Project 2025, leading up to the election, the way she was talking about it was like the Democrats were essentially telling the media what to say about Project 2025, that this is the media trying to draw this connection between Trump and this random think tank, even though it was clear already that this was the plan if Trump was to be elected. That was the reporting from the beginning. That's why they reported on it so heavily. And all Anna did was act as a wrench in that story and essentially feed the doubt and feed the counter narrative to that story that Donald Trump himself and his administration or his campaign put out in order to distance themselves from Project 2025. So if we're going to take Anna in good faith here and say that she arrived at the wrong conclusion about Project 2025 through honest means, because even if you want to say she didn't, then why would she ever admit that she was wrong about Project 2025? That's at least her trying to be good faith. Even if she, obviously could have admitted that she was wrong about a lot of other things. And I don't think that that's that many steps in logic away from what she said. So if she's able to bring herself to the conclusion that she was wrong in her analysis of Project 2025, that should also lead to the conclusion that you were wrong, that the press was only reporting about Project 2025 because they are connected to the Democrats. That is the kind of claim that MAGA makes, and that was the logic that you used in order to distance Trump from Project 2025. You effectively assisted in that media narrative. And there's probably people in the Young Turks audience that voted for Trump or weren't sure what they were voting, or maybe they would have voted against him if they thought that there was more of a threat. So that is a larger abdication of responsibility to their audience there. And it is great that Anna is willing to admit that she was wrong and that things are worse than she imagined that they would be, because she doesn't necessarily have to admit that. But I do think there's a little bit more of responsibility to the audience there, even if you don't want to get into the more personal things that you have taken issue with the left over, and you don't want to go as far as rescinding some of those statements. I think in general, Anna has participated in the act of laundering narratives from the right, laundering a sense of normalization that comes from right-wing media into her left-wing coverage, supposedly left-wing coverage, you know. And I think that that led to the lapse in analysis that caused her to completely misread what Project 2025 was and what was happening surrounding Project 2025 leading up to the election. You know, she completely missed the ball there. And I think that it's because she was paying attention to what those exact same people wanted the media to be paying attention to, which was different conservative plans and excuses and reasons. And, oh, here's Trump's statement distancing himself from Project 2025. And the media, the actual press, the mainstream press, they were the ones reporting the actual story. They were the ones who were getting information out to people about what Project 2025 is. And their reporting was accurate, not only about what Project 2025 is, but the fact that Donald Trump was going to do it and what it was going to look like when he did. All of that was communicated pretty clearly by the media. Could have been better, obviously, because it wasn't enough. But, you know, it was made much more of a mainstream talking point than a political project called Project 2025 usually would be. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the kind of thing that gets a lot of people talking usually. But they were able to use that name effectively to hint at the darker parts of that political strategy, and it worked. And I think that that's the kind of thing that Ana, and maybe Cenk too, caught on to as shrewd political analysts that have been doing this for a long time. They caught on to the fact that there was a media tactic that was happening there, but they wrongly attributed that to the fact that, in Ana's own words, the media was acting as stenographers for the Democratic Party. And I'm not going to say that, you know, it's wrong to say that kind of thing about the mainstream news, because I don't necessarily think it's an incorrect critique. But in that instance, it led her to the completely wrong conclusion. And you could argue that there were some really damaging effects to that particular miscalculation, which is the only reason I'm really bringing this up. Because, you know, I think I said this on the last one where I talked about the Young Turks. I think there's only so much value to it. Clearly, there's some value in continuing to talk about the new things that come up, because I think it acts as a broader example for why some of these conclusions that these people are coming to are either misguided or in bad faith. This is another good example of that. But I also think that there's an interesting phenomenon that comes with this whole why I left the left grift, which I guess is just the point of the whole thing, which is it does seem to create a spectacle. And I do think that Cenk and Ana have become more relevant figures by being more combative with the left. But through a media lens, what's happening is they're getting the attention of both sides of the spectrum. So the right is praising them because they're praising the right, and they see that, at least in some instances, people like Cenk and Ana can be used to launder certain right-wing narratives like Project 2025 isn't that serious, or the left has gone completely out of control and that's why some people need to move to the right. They're useful figures to launder that, and it angers the left and gets people like me on the left talking about them. So when they might have been only more relevant to the left before, except in certain instances where they might have pissed off the right enough that the right reports on them, which happened a couple times, you know. Fox News, I think, played some clips of Ana Kasparian a couple times. Stuff like that happened. Ana Kasparian, you know, has definitely gone on fiery rants at a few times in the past that got people, you know, up in arms or got people cheering on the left. But I think that happened more rarely with that dynamic than now, where they're pissing off the left and they have the right cheering for them. I think the controversy of that and the whole switching sides narrative has genuinely given them some more relevance. You know, that successfully got a lot of attention on them. And I'm wondering what's a version of that can be replicated on the left that gets some people up in arms, but ultimately gets people talking about some kind of left-wing idea or solution to some problem or something like that. Because we don't have a lot of versions of that, and I think that's what we see happen organically when the whole Luigi Mangione situation happens, right? Where there's a lot of people cheering him on, and then there's a lot of people who look at that and they say, whoa, that's kind of crazy. This guy got murdered, and then the conversation happens, why? I had conversations like that with my own friends where people were like, so what did this guy do? What happened? And then you explain it in pretty plain terms that he did what he did because he was angry at the healthcare system for various reasons, because it personally fucked him over. And I've had people agree with him just after having that quick conversation about it, because it got people talking. It got the dialectical conversation going, where all of a sudden we're talking about an issue and we're talking about a fundamental structure of society, and people are saying, hey, wait, I feel exactly the same as that guy, and I actually don't feel any empathy for the guy who got killed at all. And so, you know, people have said that we need more Luigis, and that's not the point that I'm making on this podcast. But I am saying that we need more media stunts that can get people talking about left-wing ideas. And I know that sounds crazy and people cringe even hearing the words media stunt, I'm sure, because we view that as an inherently cringe thing. But I also think it's the kind of thing the left doesn't do enough anymore, because it does work. And if anything, being disincentivized against doing that sort of thing is kind of a psyop to keep us from using one of the most effective methods of getting our ideas out, which is to cause a spectacle about it and introduce our ideas through that. And this is what the climate protesters do by throwing paint at paintings or soup at paintings. It's what people do when they shut down the highways and sit in front of cars and that sort of thing. And that's all good. And I guess that is kind of the model to follow. But also, it would be interesting to try to come up with ways to create the impression that people from the right are converting to the left, because this is just too much. I can't handle this. Project 2025, they told me they weren't going to do Project 2025, and now they are. I'm going to the left. I don't know, something like that. Maybe that's what Anna's trying to do here, but I doubt it. She's probably just doing it to try to salvage her credibility a little bit. So I'll leave this one at that. Just wanted to mention that real quick. Not sure how much I'm going to keep talking about the Young Turks. I mean, I guess it makes sense to keep talking about them as long as people are interested in hearing it. But I know some of you out there are tired of it, and I'm getting a little bit tired of it too. But I think there is something to be said about the relevance that they have picked up because of all this, and what we can do with that responsibly. I mean, I guess the obvious answer is to stop talking about them, but is that going to prevent this tactic from continuing to work? And how can we counteract that tactic other than just covering it extensively, which works, but you know, maybe isn't the antidote we're looking for. If you like this video, like and subscribe. And if you really want to support, consider becoming a member. That's the best way to support this show. You'll get exclusive access to videos early, all kinds of exclusive content like music. If you like the music that plays in these videos, all those beats are going to be posted there. New songs that nobody's heard is going to be posted there, all kinds of stuff. And if there's stuff that you want to hear, kinds of content that you would be interested in, let me know, and we'll figure it out.